Picture this. Your world implodes when you catch your wife in another man's arms. But what if, on top of that crushing betrayal, you discovered your own mother had been secretly helping her hide the affair for weeks? The absolute audacity of it all. I knew right then, revenge was the only option. And, trust me, it was glorious. It all started about a month ago. I'd planned this sweet surprise for Helen, my wife. I thought we could have a romantic evening, maybe dinner, a late movie, just something to bring a little joy back into our lives, you know? So, I headed to her office, ready to whisk her away. But when I got there, I saw her car. Parked. Still there. Which was weird for that time of night. I called her, walking closer, thinking I'd play it cool, like, hey, ready for a surprise? But then, I heard her ringtone. Loud and clear. Coming from inside her car. Confusion twisted in my gut. As I peered through the window, my blood ran cold. There she was. Helen. My wife. Locked in a passionate embrace with another man. Right there. In our car. My heart stopped. Frozen. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then, her eyes flickered open. They locked with mine. Panic. Pure, unadulterated panic flashed across her face. She pulled away, stumbling over words that wouldn't come. Guilt. Fear. It was all there. And the guy? He finally turned, seeing me. His face drained, eyes wide with horror as he recognized me. And that's the kicker. It wasn't just some random guy. This was someone I knew. From Helen's office Christmas parties. We'd laughed, shared drinks, even connected on social media. I knew his wife was pregnant, expecting their child at home. And here he was betraying her, just like Helen was betraying me. The sickening truth hit me like a tidal wave. My sweet surprise, our romantic night? Shattered. Utterly, irrevocably broken. Helen, shaking, tried to explain. Stumbled over words. It was nothing. A one-time mistake. Her voice strained, trying to convince us both that what I'd just witnessed meant absolutely nothing. But how could I believe that? I'd just seen my wife, kissing another man, passionately. And then, the other guy. He came running after me, pleading, begging me not to tell his pregnant wife. The sheer nerve of it all. His only concern was his own secret. Fury. That's all I felt. So intense I could barely see straight. I knew if I stayed, I'd lose it. So, I just turned. Didn't say a word. Didn't look back. Got in my car and drove. Fast. Just needed to get away from them. My hands gripped the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. The image, that kiss, replayed in my mind. A twisted loop I couldn't escape. I drove for hours. No destination. Just driving. Eventually, I found myself in this secluded spot, miles from the city. I parked and just let it all hit me. The pain. The betrayal. It came crashing down, and I broke. Cried harder than I had in years. How? How could this happen? Helen and I were best friends. Our lives, our dreams, our future. All gone. Shattered. When I finally went home, my mind was made up. No going back. Helen was there, waiting, tear-streaked. She rushed at me, pleading, "We can fix this. It's not too late." But her words were hollow. Every apology, every promise, just fueled my anger. Nothing she said could undo what I'd seen. I yelled. Said I couldn't live with a cheater. My trust was gone. The thought of touching her, kissing her, it was impossible. That image was burned into my brain. I made it clear, divorce. That's all that was left. Her face crumpled. She sobbed, begging for a second chance, swearing she loved me. But it felt like too little too late. The hurt was too raw. I grabbed my bag and walked out. Checked into a motel. For days, I just existed. Work, motel, staring at the TV, crying myself to sleep. I didn't tell anyone. Shame. Embarrassment. How could I explain this to my parents? My friends? The woman I loved, my wife, had cheated. I was still processing it myself. I kept it all bottled up, avoiding questions, avoiding pity. Helen called constantly. Messages piled up. Each time her name flashed, it was a fresh punch to the gut. I ignored her. Twice, she showed up at my office. I refused to see her. Then, about a week later, my dad called. I could hear the concern in his voice.
How are you?
Where are you? He said Helen had told them everything. My heart sank, but honestly, there was a strange relief. I wasn't carrying this alone anymore. Dad urged me to take time off, focus on my mental health, come stay with them. I was running on fumes. So I went. When I pulled into their driveway, my parents were waiting. They hugged me tight. Didn't have to say a word. They saw I wasn't okay. Upstairs, I rested. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. Later that evening, we talked. Before I began, I asked them, "What did Helen tell you?" Dad cleared his throat. Helen had called them, admitted to a stupid kiss, then spun it like I had impulsively walked out, refusing to work things out. I just shook my head, downplaying it as a minor mistake, not the complete betrayal it was. I took a deep breath and recounted everything. From the car, to the frozen disbelief, to the gut-wrenching reality. My voice cracked. My hands shook. Dad was visibly shaken. He squeezed my shoulder, told me he understood, that he had my back. It felt good to have that validation. But my mom, she'd been silent, brooding. Then she spoke, her voice gentle yet firm. "Have you really fought this through?" Her words stung. How could she ask me that, after everything I'd just poured out? I stared at her, frustration boiling. Of course, I fought it through. My wedding vows mean everything to me. But this betrayal? It's too deep. How can I stay with someone who cheated? But she pressed on. Maybe give Helen a chance to explain. She seemed so remorseful. She even suggested we could work through it. My stomach twisted. My own mother, asking me to consider staying with someone who had betrayed me so profoundly? It felt like a second betrayal. I was dumbfounded. Before I could react, Dad snapped. "You have no right to defend a loose, characterless woman like Helen over your own son." But Mom didn't back down. Marriage takes compromise. Mistakes happen. She kept pushing, arguing we could get through it. The more she talked, the sicker I felt. The truth was, Mom had always loved Helen like a daughter. They had been close since high school. Helen was family. Holidays, dinners, vacations, she was always there. For Mom, this wasn't just about me and Helen. It was about losing someone she deeply cared about. I understood her struggle. But it didn't change the fact that Helen's actions had crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I couldn't follow her advice. In the days that followed, I went through the motions. Spoke with a lawyer. Started divorce proceedings. Helen insisted on meeting at my parents' house to get the papers. Part of me didn't want to involve them further, but I agreed. Get it over with. My parents knew what was coming. I'd asked Mom not to interfere. But of course, she greeted Helen with kindness. They even hugged. My blood boiled. How could she be nice to someone who had hurt me so deeply? Before I could say anything, Helen pulled something from her bag. A pregnancy test. She placed it on the table between us. "I'm pregnant," she announced. My eyes went wide. I picked up the test. Positive. I looked at her, searching for any sign of a cruel joke. But she just smiled. "I'm pregnant with our baby." I scoffed. Couldn't hide my contempt. "This isn't my baby," I stated flatly. "It's probably that other guy's." Helen looked shocked. Offended. Her face flushed. She started arguing immediately, insisting the affair was only once or twice. A mistake. She even had the nerve to say she'd been careful. Careful. Hearing her admit they'd slept together, actually say it out loud, made me sick. I knew. I had suspected. But hearing it? It was a different kind of pain. I cut her off. My voice sharp. "People get pregnant even with protection, Helen. There's a 50-50 chance this baby isn't mine." The audacity of her, trying to frame this pregnancy as our marriage's salvation. I handed her the divorce papers. Her face crumpled as she took them. She started to cry. For a moment, I wondered if it was guilt or fear of losing control. Mom, seeing this, rushed to her side, consoling her, rubbing her back. as if Helen was the victim. Then Mom looked at me. "You shouldn't burden a pregnant woman with divorce papers," she said, trying to reason with me. "This baby could solve everything. Forgive her. Go home." It felt like a slap in the face. Before I could even respond, Dad stepped in, his anger boiling. He shouted at Mom, furious that she was still supporting Helen after everything. "Without a paternity test, we have no proof it's his," he roared. "You shouldn't force him to take on the burden of a child when she was unfaithful." Dad was right. Then he turned to Helen, his voice firm, dripping with disappointment. "After everything he's done for you, after years of marriage, cheating on him was the worst thing you could do." I watched the shame wash over her face. Her sobs grew louder. She was embarrassed, yes, but it didn't change anything. What was done was done. In the weeks after serving Helen the papers, I started noticing Mom behaving strangely. She was out constantly, vague excuses about friends or errands. Hours gone, returning late, always on her phone, whispering, hanging up abruptly if I entered the room. It was too obvious. I asked her, point blank, "Are you meeting Helen?" She'd brush it off, act like I was imagining things. Dad noticed it too. We both knew something was off. Then, about a week ago, I was working from home. My laptop was acting up, and I had an important meeting. So I asked Mom if I could borrow hers. She handed it over without a second thought. I finished my meeting, then noticed a notification pop up. Her laptop was connected to iCloud. It was a message from Helen. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked. What I found confirmed my suspicions. Helen was asking Mom to meet at their usual spot. I scrolled. Full conversations. About the pregnancy. About me. About how Mom could fix things. My stomach churned. Helen was manipulating Mom, using her love for her, her desire for a grandchild, to get back into my life. And Mom, blinded by her attachment, was buying into it. She was excited to be a grandma, couldn't wait to hold her baby. I sat there, a cocktail of anger, disappointment, and sadness swirling inside me. Then it got worse. I scrolled further back. Just weeks before I caught Helen cheating, Mom had known. A friend who knew us both had sent Mom a photo. Helen, looking intimate with a man. The same man. Mom, instead of telling me, forwarded it to Helen. Confronted her. Helen, the manipulative narcissist, downplayed it. Just a coworker. But Mom, bless her naive heart, pushed. And Helen, to her credit, came clean. Admitted the affair. Said she'd been lonely. Then she promised Mom she'd break it off and begged her not to tell me. Mom, loving Helen like her own daughter, believed her. Agreed to keep the secret, assuming Helen would do the right thing. But Helen never broke it off. She continued the affair right up until I found them in the parking lot. The day I went to my parents' house, broken and shattered, Mom had already known the full extent of Helen's betrayal. And she had still defended Helen over me. I was speechless. Blindsided by my wife, now blindsided by my own mother. It was a double betrayal. I could hardly process it. For days, I quietly observed Mom. She kept meeting Helen, still tried to change my mind about the divorce. She had no idea I knew. But I had a plan. Update 1 * for everyone asking. Yes, I did tell the other man's pregnant wife. I reached out on social media. I was so consumed with my own grief. I hadn't known how. But you guys helped me see I needed to. If this baby turned out to be his, there was no way he could hide his affair. And Helen, being self-serving, would absolutely take him to court for child support. Lastly, yes, Helen and I were intimate right up until I moved out, so there was a chance the baby could be mine. I hadn't dismissed it completely, but I would need a paternity test. Update 2 * I called Helen and her parents, inviting them for lunch at my parents' house. Mom seemed genuinely surprised, probably thinking I was rethinking the divorce. She had no clue what was coming. Helen's parents looked remorseful. They apologized on Helen's behalf, unlike my mom. Their support actually reinforced my resolve. I gathered everyone. I've brought you all here, I said, to reveal the entire truth about Helen's affair. Mom's eyes widened. Dad, confused, asked, "What are you talking about?" Taking a deep breath, I pulled out the printed screenshots. Conversations between Helen and Mom. All of it. I watched their faces drain of color as I laid the evidence before Dad and Helen's parents. I showed them everything. How Mom had known for weeks. How she'd helped Helen hide it from me. Dad's expression shifted as he read through the messages. Disbelief. "Is this true?" he asked Mom. But instead of answering, her face flushed with anger. "You have no right to read my private messages," she accused me, her voice rising. "I wasn't sure. I just didn't want to break your marriage. I thought Helen would leave that man. I thought she'd come to her senses." Her tone was defensive, but I heard the cracks. She went on, justifying, saying Helen couldn't have done this knowingly, that she was lost. Helen, sitting across from me, jumped in. "It's true. I was building up the courage to break up with him." I scoffed. At both of them. The absurdity of their excuses. "You were both complicit in this." My voice trembled with anger and raw hurt. "Mom, you had every opportunity to tell me. But instead, you chose to protect her. Do you both even realize how much this hurts? Do you understand what you've done?" Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. Then, unexpectedly, Helen's mother spoke. Her tone firm but compassionate. She turned to my mom, pointed out how wrong Mom had been to hide the affair. Said that if she had been honest from the start, I might have been spared this shame. Dad nodded, disappointment etched across his face. "You're as much at fault as Helen for supporting her," he said to my mom. "By trying to protect her, you only helped to break your son's trust. You should have known better." The weight of their words bore down. Mom's defenses crumbled. She burst into tears. The full impact of her actions finally hit her. She expressed remorse, saying she'd always wanted Helen and me to have a family, that it was hard to let go. She truly believed we could fix things. But now, seeing my anguish, she promised to stop pushing. "I just wanted you to be happy," she kept saying between sobs. Since that day, Mom has blocked Helen. She's promised to stay out of my divorce. Helen's parents and Dad are fully supporting me, pushing Helen to get a paternity test when the time comes. Update 3 asterisk. It's been almost 9 months. Helen gave birth. And for everyone still asking in my DMs, we got the paternity test. And guess what? I am not the father. Yay! I've divorced Helen, and I'm living peacefully in my own apartment. I'm genuinely happy with how my life has turned out, and yes, I'm pretty relieved I won't be paying child support. My mom and I have slowly, carefully improved our relationship. She's keeping her promise about Helen. No contact. So, after all of this, I have to ask you, what would you have done in my shoes? How would you have dealt with that kind of betrayal, especially from your own family? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts.